I only work with the best because if I refer a company or a vendor and they don't do a good job, immediately they're off my list.
Hello and welcome back to the Savvy Agent Podcast. My name is Anthony James. I'm your host of the show, and I get the privilege and honor of working with a very special guest on today's episode. His name is Jeff Silva. How you doing today, Jeff?
Very good.
Hey, thanks for coming on the show. For those of you that do not know Jeff, Jeff has been a long-time RE/MAX agent. He actually is in our Hall of Fame of realtors within RE/MAX. And he's been in the industry for over 29 years, has a very extensive background in lending before he got into real estate, but has had a beautiful career on both lending and on the real estate side. So a vast array of knowledge and insights into our business. Thank you for being on the show. I've got a great topic that we're teed up to talk about. Are you ready to go, Jeff?
I'm ready.
Excellent. Hey, why don't you take just a couple of minutes, Jeff, and just kind of share a little bit of that background that I kind of touched the tip of the iceberg, so to speak, but share a few minutes of your background and your journey in real estate up to this point.
Yes. Back in 1998, I got my real estate license, and for about 11 years, I was a loan officer. And I worked with buyers, sellers, investors, and I learned so much in the insights and stuff, what underwriters are looking for, appraisers are looking for. And I met so many different vendors along the way to help my clients make things more beneficial to them.
Yeah. That's one of the qualities of an incredible real estate agent, which you're highlighting right now that you certainly have, which is, all of this experience, 29 years, both on the lending and on the real estate side, and the things that you gather through that experience. And I think, one of the things I know about you is between those two sides of the business, lending and real estate, you've been involved in over 1,400 transactions, career stat, right? And that's a lot of real estate transactions. So inevitably, you're going to learn some things. And I know the topic that we want to really touch on today is the importance of preparing one's home for sale. And oftentimes, a seller might have a property that needs a little work, needs a little clean out, maybe has some deferred maintenance, and it can be overwhelming for the homeowner. And that's where your experience comes into play and the things that you've learned and the connections that you've made. So let's jump right into it, Jeff. Tell us a little bit about, this topic and the resources that you have for clients that you serve.
Just a couple weeks ago, I received a phone call from a client, and she was concerned about her house, how her house looked, because she wanted to get it prepared for sale. And I let her know that I have a team of licensed contractors that do various work on the house. If you need a new roof, if you need a brand new kitchen, if you need flooring, paint, if you need just landscaping, if you just need a haul out, move out, I've got the teams that can do that for you. What I highly recommend is that I come over, walk around, see what needs to be done. It's important to have the house in good condition, preferably, because right now in today's market, more homes are selling quicker, faster for a higher price if they're close to a turnkey type property versus a house that needs a lot of work, that's cluttered and so on and so forth. So I went over to her property, took a look at it. I walked around the outside, the inside. We took a stroll around the property, and I made my notes, and I let her know that we will get some bids on the work that should be taken care of to get it ready before buyers take a peek at it. We're almost finished on this particular listing that's going to go live here in another week or so.
Yeah. So I have a question for you, Jeff. You mentioned your visit to the property and you walk around the property inside, outside. In your experience, what things are you looking at specifically and which items typically bring the best ROI? Like if you can do this one or these three things, it's really going to make a big difference on maximizing the value in the sale. So what are you looking for and how are you counseling the owners in that?
That's a great question. One of the very first things I do, so when I come up to the property, I like to walk around the house. I like to take a look at the eaves, kind of see what the condition, to see if how's the roof? If there's any dry rot or anything like that. Now, I'm not an expert in that field, but I just kind of get an idea for what needs to be done there. And I look around out in the back a little bit, but really the kitchen is always like a number one thing that really should be nice and tidy, looking good for sure. The front, the appearance is very, very, very important. You pull up to the house, just looking out front, the front of the house, everything should be clean, nice and tidy if possible. Many homes are unique in their own way. So some properties have a unique feature. And if that feature kind of stands out, that should be really polished and looking nice and tidy.
I was just going to recap. So if I'm hearing you correctly, it sounds like, kitchen, right?
Obviously,
Things you can do to that kitchen to improve, refresh, update it. That's going to bring good return on the improvement dollar that you spend. And then curb appeal being very important.
curb appeal.
When you drive up, that first impression, how it looks, how the yard is, the color of the house, all of those little things from a curb appeal and first impression standpoint, also going to bring a good return on investment.
I,
I, I don't know if you mentioned this one, but what about flooring and paint? Does that also kind of fall in
yeah,
the category?
many times I'll go into a property and I'll see old weathered carpeting, and the trend nowadays is less carpet is typically better, unless it's perhaps in a bedroom or so forth. But in the main walkways, typically it's a tile, LVP flooring, or something of that sort.
Let me ask you another question. Let's just kind of talk dollars and cents from your experience. Let's just take a, very standard 3 bedroom, 2 bath, maybe 2,000 square foot home in Roseville that was built in early 2000s, right? So it's dated, right? Like it's got a 25-year-old kitchen in it and the flooring hasn't really been touched. And so from your experience, roughly 2,000 square feet, 3 bed, 2 bath, it needs like some landscape refresh. We probably need to do some things to the kitchen. Flooring and paint are an absolute necessity. What would you ballpark that, kind of renovation dollar amount to be in your
Every property is very unique in its own way. So it's really good that I go in there, take a look at things and analyze things, because properties are so unique in one way or another. And it can prices, costs can vary so much. And you want to get the areas most needed for improvements and whatnot. So it's really a case by case scenario on each home.
Now, you mentioned that you have some referral partners, vendors that will bill through Escrow. Are there also companies that will actually come in and you can just hire one company? They'll come in, do everything you need, and then also bill that through Escrow. What's your experience in that regard?
Yes, I've worked with various companies out there. There's a couple very reputable companies out there that I've worked with. I only work with the best, because if I refer a company or a vendor and they don't do a good job, immediately they're off my list. So I always want to work with the best. So yes, I've worked with companies before. I've worked with vendors, pest companies, and whatnot that will build projects through escrow as well. Sometimes I'll have a company where they'll do all the work, or sometimes it really depends on the pricing. A couple vendors might have better pricing on the painting or the landscaping. So I'll work with them on it while the other company is working on a other part of the house. So, and then sometimes it's the company doing the whole thing. So it just varies. And it kind of depends on the season. Sometimes contractors are busier during different times of the year. If you have a contractor that's not as busy, well, maybe they'll probably do it for a less fee, and which helps the client for sure. So every property is unique in its own way. So it's kind of all over the board, but it's really getting you in that position to get the house ready for sale and to be able to sell for top dollar ultimately.
That's great. I think, after, 29 years or 30 years, right, being in the business and in the industry, you make some connections. You've probably had some good experiences with vendors and contractors and referral partners. Probably also had some bad ones, right? And so
Yeah.
experiences are invaluable for, you as the agent to be able to offer that to the clients you're serving, because you're saving the client so much time and energy and potential headache of having to weed through the who's who to get the job.
Yeah. And, I network with so many realtors out there, and we have discussions regarding the different vendors, who's good, who's not. So we stay in the loop with that because that's so important in our profession. The top agents working with the top vendors. We trade our ideas and so forth. So, I have my booklet of top vendors. And if I'm looking for something else, if I need that great photographer, drone footage on a nice acreage or so on and so forth, I'm looking for that particular photographer that can get out there on a timely, time frame, because it's important to get the homes ready and not have wasting time because we don't have the vendor ready to go. At least we have our A vendors, no matter what that might be.
Yeah, I think, I'll just speak for myself as a homeowner, and I've got a couple of rental properties, and every once in a while stuff comes up, right? And, the value of a quality referral partner, contractor, handyman, painter, landscaper, plumber, electrician, like,
Yeah.
name it, like, it's so valuable because speed and time and efficiency are so important. And so I've seen in my own personal homeownership journey in the last 10 years that those connections are critical. Like, having someone I can call makes a huge difference. And so I think oftentimes that's undervalued in the mindset of the consumer because they're not really thinking about it until they need something, right? When you go to sell your house, you don't really know what you need until you meet with Jeff and walk the property and get a sense of what we should maybe do to fix things up or renovate before selling. But also when you buy a house and you close escrow on that home and now you're the homeowner of that home, who do I call when I need something? And I think that, homeowners rather should really lean on the network of the realtor because you're seeing so many transactions, you're so well connected. And even if they've already closed escrow and they don't need you to negotiate the terms of the contract anymore, reach out to your local realtor, reach out to Jeff, right, to get that referral of the trusted handyman or contractor, whatever it is that you need to solve whatever maintenance issue you have at your property.
Right. And another really big thing is, for someone looking to get their home ready to sell, is get that home inspection, get that pest inspection done prior to maybe that roof inspection. Get that done in advance. So important because once we get into escrow, we don't want things going sideways, and we can prevent a lot of that mess by getting these inspections done in advance. I tell my sellers, think like buyers, and I tell my buyers, think like sellers. And the basic concept of that is if you're selling your house and a buyer comes up, one of the first thing the buyers wants to know, does it have a pest clearance? How how old is the roof? They want to know these items. How old's the water heater? And if you can have some of those things taken care of in advance, if you can have a pest clearance before it goes on the market, that's huge. That's selling points.
Yeah.
That's not, I don't really see that as a cost. I see that as an investment. You're going to make a great return on your money because who doesn't want a clear pest report? Who doesn't want a roof that's in great condition? So these inspections will point out the defects in the property. We can get those repaired in advance, or at least let the buyer know in advance. So when we're in escrow, the chances of having an escrow fall out are less because we've taken care of those items, or at least that's fixed into the price of the home because we know what the costs are for the repair. So
Yeah.
you could play it either way, but at least we know up front there's no, hidden, you know, secrets, that all of a sudden explode during escrow.
And I think, you mentioned a word that I'm just going to highlight, and it's, the properties that are more turnkey are still selling, right? And they're selling typically quicker and for top dollar. And that is just a result of the market that we find ourselves in, which really is a spectrum of properties that are selling fast and for top dollar with multiple offers. But in the same market, you have homes that are sitting on the market for 2, 3, 4 months. And so what's the difference? Well, from our estimation and the conversations that I have with Jeff and other great agents within our industry, is that buyers nowadays, they're just more picky. If it's going to be a 6.5% interest rate and a highly, appreciated home price that they have to pull the trigger on from a pricing perspective, which is going to give them a large payment, well, they're a little bit more picky on what they want to buy. And so if sellers have the best condition, the best product that they can put out there, they're the ones that are going to attract a lot of that interest because the buyers are picky and they're looking for quality product that's more turnkey, that they don't have to go invest a lot of time, energy, and effort in to go fix up and make their own.
Right. The first couple of weeks of a property being on the market is so important. If a home sits on the market for a while, you get those buyers out there that are thinking, well, what's wrong with the property? If it's so good, how come it didn't sell right away? So getting the house in order is so key and pricing it right as well. But that's another topic.
Yeah, I think, for sellers, at the time of recording today, it's June 2026. And I think a lot of sellers are still stuck in a mindset of expectation of what it was like in like 2020, 2021. You could put anything on the market and it would sell, right? And it'd sell fast and it'd have multiple offers. And, you'll talk to a seller nowadays and like, I don't want to do any repairs. I don't want to do any work. I just want to sell it as is, but they still want premium retail pricing on their home with as is, needs work kind of transaction. And, that really isn't, the market that we find ourselves in anymore. Is that what you're seeing out there as well, Jeff?
And it really helps that you work with an experienced agent that can really guide you through the process.
Yeah. That's awesome, Jeff. Well, just to kind of recap and make sure we didn't miss anything here today, if I heard you correctly, a couple of important steps for someone thinking about selling their home and wanting to make sure that they maximize the dollar in the sale. And they're trying to figure out, what should they do to get this property ready? Step number one, call Jeff Silva, right? Have them out, have them take a look at the property, walk the property with you. And Jeff, you're looking for things on the exterior of the property like dry rot, landscaping, curb appeal, paint. When you get in that property, you're looking to see if kitchens are outdated, if there's some things that we could do to, update a kitchen or update the interior with some fresh flooring or paint. Those things will go a long way. And then the second thing to recognize as a homeowner is not only call Jeff to have them out, but also understand that you don't necessarily have to pay for all of those things out of your own pocket. After Jeff and his team assess what's needed, you can actually work with Jeff, his vendor referral network, and have those things billed to escrow. Means you only pay once that escrow closes and it comes out of the proceeds from your sale and your transaction. Did I miss anything, Jeff? How's that sound?
That sounds pretty good. Yeah, it sounds good. I think you got it right on the mark there.
Yeah. Let me ask you one more question as we wrap up today's episode, Jeff. Like if there's, one thing that a homeowner should remember from this conversation, what would you say it is?
Work with people that are experienced in the business, that have a good long track record whenever possible. You'll save sleepless nights by doing it the right way from the get-go. I've just had too many clients in the past call me up telling me their nightmares, and it could have all been avoided by doing the proper steps right from the get-go. It's just working with the right team.
Yeah, so important, but well said, and sometimes often understated. When you're a client, a homeowner, a consumer in today's market, number one, most important, work with an experienced realtor like Jeff, who has a team, who has the referral network, who has the 29 years and the, over 1,400 transactions that he's been involved in to help you navigate everything, to make it easier for you, to make it a little less stressful, because it can be a very stressful time, especially when you have to manage projects of cleanup or renovation on top of I'm moving and I got to pack my house.
Right. Because oftentimes when I'm working with clients, they're not only looking to sell, but they're looking to buy. So we got to coordinate it. And that's a whole new topic, but it all comes into play. So that's why we have to have it done right. Just do it right for sure.
Well, Jeff Silva, thank you so much for coming on today's show. I appreciate your time and your partnership. And hopefully, the listeners today walked away with a couple of nuggets of how they can connect with you, tap into your experience, tap into your network and the resources that you bring into every client interaction. I know it'll go a long way for their experience when they're looking to buy or sell. And it was very nice to have you on the show today, my friend. Thank you.
All right.
Thanks, man.